Roosevelt Island Operating Corporation Real Estate Advisory Committee, calling a meeting to order. Today's February 16th. It's 20 of 6. Present, myself, Chair, and Faye Christian. Also present from the board, Sal Ferreira and Margie Smith. We also are joined by Steve Sharonis, Don Lewis, Arthur Ellen, and quite a number of members of the community, including Matt Katz, present at rear. First item on the agenda is discussion of the street vending licenses here on Roosevelt Island. This continues an agenda item from the past several meetings. Do we have any staff reports on this?
The report is, and those of you who have done a lot of speaking with other parties, people at Battery Park City, people at parks, have bounced some ideas around here and heard from different stakeholders. I think the position we have reached and what would recommend is that we essentially would be continuing to do what we've done to date, and that essentially is following what the New York City model is for their permitting, with the one additional step, obviously, that the food vendors that we would have here on Roosevelt Island would be required to get permits to vend on Roosevelt Island, which we have done in the other cases, which are, I think some of you are familiar with, and I've seen mentioned the Mr. Softy truck, which I understand gets a monthly permit, which makes sense, selling ice cream. They probably don't want to be here in the winter selling ice cream. And the fruit vendor, I think this gentleman does the fruit vending, Ishmael, right? Who gets a yearly permit, and they're able to operate as vendors on the island. For other parties that would want to operate as vendors on the island, they would have to go through the same process, whatever requirements New York City makes them meet, and they come to us, they ask for a permit, and where appropriate, we would give them permits. One of the things we've done, is one of the concerns raised at the last meeting by various stakeholders, was where would such vending be appropriate on the island. One of the issues came up is in the retail corridor, there's not going to be vending contingent, in accordance with the master sublease with David Kramer, but where are the other places on the island where we may have food vendors? What we did is Arthur reached out to operations and Fernando and his team, and in compliance with whatever the New York City regulations are and requirements are for permitting, we took a look at the island and came up with the spaces that would be appropriate and would fit within New York City rules and regulations. And there are 6 possible places on the island where food vendors could potentially operate. 2 of them, I understand, are pretty much already being used. One is by Mr. Softy when he does, the other is by the fruit vending. The other 2, the other 4 are what they are. Some may be more attractive, some may be less attractive, but those are the 6 sites where vendors could potentially work in compliance with the New York City rules and regulations. Given that there's not a ton of sites, and given that this hasn't been a problem in the past, we figured it's best to continue as we have, and the permitting process for those that wanted to come here and vend on the island would just be on a first come first served basis.
Okay.
Could you say the sites?
Okay, for those who really can't see the sites, 1's Lighthouse Park, 2 is the soccer field, 3 is by the Tram Plaza, Tram Park, and 4 is South Point Park. So,
And that's in addition to the 2 existing sites.
in addition to 2 existing sites, which are starred over here and over here. So
And
that's where the fruit vendor is and where the Mr. Softy was.
I don't know where the That's at the Tram, or in front of the school.
Oh, well, farmer's market,
Subway.
I'm sorry, this
So that's at the,
so that's the, right, I'm sorry, this is the,
It's a farmer's market.
right, the farmer's market and is marked, and also the fruit stand, which will show up near the subway station. So,
The farmer's market is another one. I admit it.
okay.
That was fun.
and that's only on Saturday, so that area could be used at other times.
Well, the issue there, as I understand it, is that that's subject to the master retail lease restrictions.
That's exactly right.
So I'm in favor of permitting vending in the limited spaces that we have. The only thing I wonder is whether we should delineate particular spots that are available to vendors or not. Do you have any thoughts on that?
You're saying donate, like specifically spell it out somewhere?
Yeah, like,
I don't know that I mean, that's what people do, but personally, you guys know on the top of my head, I don't know that you would have to do that. I mean, if folks come here and they want to do food vending, in connection with their, applying for a permit and coming to ask us about it, we would explain it.
okay,
And
so,
essentially, that's what it does. I mean, you mean within the specific zone, what their
Yeah,
location is
you would
gonna be,
explain to
or-
them, hey, if we give you a permit, this is where you can operate.
okay,
I don't think we need to make a statement to issue to all vendors, these are the only places you can come.
But I think we need another one somewhere around
Southtown.
here by Southtown, because one by the tram is really all there is, because you can't really count this one, that's if people are down there in the park on the weekends maybe, and that would really probably only be in the summer. But I think what people really
Southtown.
wanted was by Southtown,
Or the subway.
by the tram and
So-
the subway somewhere. Another spot.
If you're going around, I mean, what I can do is, I'm not sure, Margie, how these particular places were come up with.
Sure.
We can look into whether or not, another place is in accordance with, whatever the
And
regulations
this
and
little
requirements
thing
are.
here.
It's feasible, we can certainly look into that.
And also, Southtown, obviously, the retail itself is controlled by the developer there, so we kinda need to know, A, whether it's on our property, B, whether it's the type of property that's suitable for this,
But we're
for
just
vending.
talking about the roads, aren't we?
Well, no, see, the Roosevelt Island roads are so narrow, I mean, they weren't originally constructed, you can't really have like a truck standing on the side of the street.
So
And a
cars
lot
gonna
of
be on the
those-
sidewalk?
No, and then a lot of places are also marked for parking, so it depends, I mean, it has to be
Right,
like.
what I thought we were gonna do is
And
make
then
like one
here.
parking lot, one
And then right in
parking
here.
spot and make it designated for vendor. So
I
we
guess
can
we
get
could.
somebody over there.
No, we look,
Or on the other
if
side.
people have other places in mind that they think would be an appropriate place, we can take a look at those places and see if putting a vendor there wouldn't run afoul of whatever the rules and regulations are that prohibit vendors from being in certain areas.
And what about that
Because that's how
area?
we came up with the spaces, right, Fernando? We looked to see which, were you on this or not?
Yes.
I mean, we basically looked to see which space in
It
the
has-
island
it
was
can't be-
suitable and.
It can't be within X
Right,
amount of feet
there's
of a
certain-
bus stop or a fire hydrant and
There's
so
rules
on,
and
and some may
regulations.
be on a sidewalk
Right.
location.
And that's things we, my
like the
understanding is
farmer's
these
market.
6 spots reflect the places and locations that didn't run afoul of those rules and regulations. However, if there is a particular spot, that people are really adamant or think it's a great idea to have, we can go back and take a closer look and see if, if that place is suitable and would run afoul of the rules and regulations.
What about the area that was near the subway?
And it also, and it also depends obviously on the demand. Not only just on the demand from the public, but on the supply. I mean, somebody's gotta come in and be expressed their interest in vending over there,
Right.
No,
which
sure.
I don't know if we have in the past turned anybody down, somebody had like a request for a particular site and we said, no, that's not available. I mean, that's something that's obviously we need to take into
I don't see the
consideration.
site that, you're interested in.
Well, that's the promenade route, so.
It's not marked.
well, that's
That's separate.
That's a
that's
different
a
thing.
separate issue. That'll
These
be a
are for the
separate
mobile,
issue.
mobile ones, you're not talking about mobile.
It's a separate issue, so we'll discuss that another time.
Procedure. So, suppose we say, fine, go ahead, and if we want to add a spot, you'll examine to see if that spot is suitable beyond what we've outlined over here. How would we publicize the availability of permits? How would we price these permits?
Well, I didn't think we were publicizing the ability of permits in any event. I know if somebody wants a permit, they come and ask for RIOC, and then we'll explain to them the process of where the available places are. That's what I thought would be the best way to do it. I'm open to suggestions. In terms of pricing, again, open suggestions. I can tell you that for Mr. Softy and for the food vendor, I know the pricing that we've had is, believe it or not, correct me if I'm wrong, is they're between paying $345 a month.
And the idea, and this is what we've learned both from New York City and other, and New York City parks, the idea is not so much to basically generate a major profit out of it. The idea is to create more of a convenience to the general public and cover the corporation's expenses, et cetera, in conducting the program essentially.
the city charge per permit?
You know, with the city, it's a little bit different because they also make them go and actually receive licenses, which we don't do. We rely on the city to do that. I mean, for them, it's an overall process where they receive like food vending licenses and they have to certify, et cetera, and we don't have the capability, nor is there a need for us to do this. We just rely on the city of New York to do that work for us, so I don't know if the rates are gonna be comparable in any case.
So you
Well,
guys,
we
you
can
guys
certainly find
designated already spots, I'm sorry, you guys designated already spots, but you're also just protecting the master lease with, related in Hudson. So on that, where all their new businesses are going, they're not gonna have pretty much any kind of vending, am I correct?
No,
It's
well,
not
we,
really
you know,
for that,
first
it's
we'll give
because-
designation. We
Well, that's what's
made a
happening.
map for illustrative
That's
purposes.
exactly
Well,
what's
if
happening.
you ask questions, I'll answer.
Okay.
We made a map for illustrative purposes of the discussion. Those are places where people would be able to vend in compliance.
That
with
map was made, because you're gonna go,
in compliance with New York City's rules and regulations. You want
and
to
also the master
designate it.
lease.
If you let me finish, and I'll let you talk. The master lease, an agreement that was entered into before I was here, I understand has specific provisions which prohibit vending in a certain corridor, which I believe is from Motorgate to Blackwell House. So, you know, we don't really have anything to add here on that, other than that's the way that it is.
That is not to,
But
that is
that's-
also not to say that
That's
the
also
vending is
moot, though, we
forbidden.
wouldn't have them there no matter what,
Well, yeah,
because it'd be
whatever.
blocking the traffic.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's fine, it probably would be
You can't
safe
get
within
that
the
on
rules and
Main Street.
regulations, but whatever it
There's
is,
just too
it
much
is what
with
it
the
is, and
buses
that's
and
a settled
everything.
issue, so, you know, that is what it is.
But I don't think we have enough, spots for the big 345 miles. Yes, sir.
It seems to me that you've missed the entire point of what mobile food truck, the purpose of mobile food trucks, and how this issue first arose. The issue first arose when a particular food truck, Luke's Lobster, came to Roosevelt Island and parked near the subway, opposite Starbucks. The purpose of that was so that residents on their way home from work, walking from the subway or walking from the tram, would have the opportunity to stop off and buy some good food on their way home. The particular sites you've picked in this map don't take that into consideration at all.
Well, the tram site does,
Yeah, of course.
Well, not the subway,
not the subway.
not the
tram
subway,
site
and
does.
more
Right,
more
that's-
people.
That's the one that Faith just circled in.
Right, more people, I'm encouraging you to consider adding a subway site, because that was really the genesis of this entire issue. So
That's
I would be-
You're right, by the subway, right?
I would be curious why you excluded
No,
that.
well, I'm answering that, I'm saying the existing vendor, I mean, there's competition, that's the fruit vendor, they're there at that site, it's still a site. If two people wanna be out there and compete, you know, I'm not sure.
No, the fruit vendors on the side, the fruit vendors on the,
And to correct what the issue was, my understanding that the issue with the lobster truck was that the lobster truck had no permit at all. So the threshold issue here is before you can have any vending on the island, you need to have a permit from Roosevelt Island. So it doesn't matter if the lobster truck vendor was at the subway, the tram, or an FDR park, the reason he was removed was because he didn't have a permit for Rio. So that's I didn't have a chance to eat it.
Howard,
but you didn't address the issue of street park, you
Yeah.
didn't address the issue of the vendor on the street as opposed to the fruit vendor who's on the sidewalk. Why did you deliberately exclude a space on the sidewalk, I'm sorry, on the street for food vending?
Wait a minute.
I don't know that it's deliberately excluded, and if it was, it probably didn't comply with the rules and regulations.
Which are what?
I can't recite them to you now, I didn't do the math myself.
Howard?
Judy was next. Judy had a question.
Yeah, the thing is that it's nice to put a food truck up by Lighthouse, by the soccer field, and by South Point. Those are gonna be used Saturdays and Sundays, maybe in the summer. I mean, this is completely, as he says, defeating the purpose. We want some more. There's plenty of room at the tram station where the Mr. Softy is, because the old bus stop is not used. and it's a nice big wide double street, and tons of people come home at night and walk down from the subway. That's a place. It's no one. It's
That's
no.
on it.
Yeah, but that's one truck. Why don't you put two?
No,
Put
it's
two.
one spot, you have
One
a
spot.
space.
Area,
If
that's
10
the
trucks
area.
wanna go out and
Couple
fight
of-
each other,
they
and
can
if you
do
think 10 people are gonna come here for an island of 15,000
It's not a
people,
single
have
spot,
at
it's
it.
an area
not
that-
gonna happen.
Okay, but it's more. You can put two.
They can apply.
Two
what they
or
want,
three
but it's
could
not
be
gonna
there.
happen.
Right. So two or three can be
You have a
there.
number, you have a number of how many people could be
Wait.
in one spot?
Depends on
So
the
you can
size.
have three people at the subway station and no one nowhere anyone. Three people at the tram station and no one anywhere else. Because I mean, the tram station and the subway are the ones that have people. The other places are strictly weekends, and I don't know if many people are going to pay $345 for a permit to go sit by a soccer field. Maybe that's used a few hours, you know.
Right, but with the purpose of the map was to give potentially available places, it wasn't to give
Yeah,
all places that will definitely be used. It's for purposes of discussion.
All right.
The monthly fee is something.
We're joined by Dr. Grimm.
Hi.
Listen here, there's no issue. Sure. You work on today?
But I'd like to sit down at the table.
Pull it over.
Yes.
Okay.
We get that one out.
Okay, so, we're looking at certain zones that are, that staff examined and found to be unrestricted under city rules, and we're considering adding some spots onto those. And we're looking at a permitting process, which would involve a fee, but would also involve some education to the prospective vendors about areas where they might do business. And we've had an expression of interest in having an area, let's say south of the subway station, but north of the tram plaza, if that were feasible.
Great.
And again, these are not,
Yeah, I don't
these
know why
are,
it
these are
wouldn't
not,
be feasible, there are all those parking
well,
spaces.
well,
Just
these
take
are
this
not
and a couple
designated
of them.
spots, but these are areas for the possibility of business. And we wouldn't be restricting it to one spot, one truck to stop, although I think Commerce would shake that out. I'm in agreement with the idea that we have designated zones. And I like the idea that staff has reviewed the restrictions and kind of penciled in areas where this commerce might commence. Let's talk about a little bit about the permitting fees. Now, you mentioned that for the fruit vendor and for Mr. Softy, it was $345 a month. And any feelings from board members about the level of fees?
I mean, are there guidelines about that, or is it very arbitrary?
It's arbitrary. These are all vendors which have suitable licenses from New York City to start with. So these fees are not so much to generate extra funds for RIOC as to defray expenses that we might have.
What expenses do
And
we
that, I
have,
just
what are our
wanna
costs?
correct, I mean, like, I wouldn't say they're arbitrary for that reason, because,
Okay.
I mean, especially as a government corporation, we can't act in an arbitrary fashion.
Sure.
But, you know, obviously, the rates are set, in cooperation between the operations department, which actually tells, knows the actual, resources that are involved. And with the fiscal department, and considering, going rates, standard rates, and what's reasonable in that setting. So, I mean, I'll defer to those departments on that regard of how the actual fees arrive, but I just wanted to make sure it's understood, it's not like arbitrary in the sense that.
Arbitrary was a poor choice of words, for this.
The existing rate seems to be a fair rate for the existing vendors, so it kind of made sense to extend it to the new one. It's like a fair, reasonable rate.
And to answer, I mean, partially, I guess, as far as I can tell, the answer to that is, there are definitely, in terms of our administrating costs, we have a permitting person on staff who's, you know, who's basically, who's doing, that's, you know, they need to be there, you know, they have to be supervised, obviously, public safety has to check on places once in a while. We have to make sure that all their licenses are up to date, that, you know, they're in fact complying with all the requirements of New York City and other applicable, you know, because they are dealing with food. So, I mean, it's expensive of that nature now, you know, the actual numbers, I can't, you know, tell you how the numbers work, but
Probably a
those are the-
very reasonable rate, it comes out to a little bit more than $10 a day. If it's gonna be economically feasible for someone, you know, whatever food vendor is, they definitely could afford $345.
And would suppose a guy just wanted to come here for one day, do you have to buy a?
Well, one day, I don't think really is what we're looking for, is one day and then charge, you know, this is
He's gotta sign
something,
some sort of contract.
you know, if it's $345,
6
he
months.
doesn't have to come every day, he may come 3 or 4 days a week. You know, I guess, you know, we'll have to work
And
that
that's
out.
what obviously becomes a consideration,
I
if you
think
then you
we're
prorate
gonna
it.
kill the whole thing if we start doing this. I think we have to decide if we want vendors or we don't want vendors. I mean, if we don't want vendors, this is the way to do it. Because,
What, do you think it's too much money?
well, I think it's too much money. I think it's too much to ask them to commit to for a month. I mean, I don't think they're gonna know whether or not it's gonna work or not.
That's business.
Well,
That's business, you know what? If I'm gonna come and, you know what, I'm gonna
but
go
I don't know
get.
that that's business in the city. I
No,
don't know
no,
what
it's
they do in the
business,
city.
period. It's business. It's what he wants to do and he's
We'll
gonna take a
find
chance
out.
to
I
do
don't know,
it.
but I don't know if it's really comparable.
I think it's not, because
But that's
it's
the,
different volume.
but if that's what we've been charging and seems to have worked, obviously,
Yeah,
they're.
but you're talking more permanent, you're not talking the mobile food trucks, that's Mr. Softy, I guess, he pays $345 and.
Yeah.
But I think if a
$1 month.
person pays, I mean, you know, people can disagree, but if a person gets a 1-month permit, which we've done in the past, I mean, I don't know if we discussed doing a week permit or something like that, somebody wanna test it out, but, you know, 1-month permit for $345, and you come in, business sucks, you go home, it's $345 lost, I mean, that's less than taking training classes or buying food or, you know,
Paying
whatever,
rent.
for a ton of things, like if you're going to a big building. I mean, you know, this is obviously not a legal issue at all, but I'm just talking, just for purposes of conversation, I mean, $345 for a month, and then just decide, hey, I went there, you know, in the middle of
That was a good
June,
shot.
when the park was opening, and, or whenever the park's opening, and nothing happened, it's a bad investment, you go home and it's $300 sunk cost, it's not a lot.
And I don't know if actually it's been a practical issue in terms of like people being discouraged by the fact that, you know, there are like these the fees, I mean, essentially, they're not that egregious.
And we break it down to a daily thing, I mean, Steve did say, I mean, obviously there's weekdays, weekends, I mean, just straight numbers, 30 days in a month, $325, that's ballpark $10 a day, that's really not a lot to block you park your trucks in there and sell and hopefully make something, right? Considering taking a cab,
The cleaning and the supervision and the public safety and everything that's involved in terms of maintaining those spots and making sure that, you know, they're adequately run.
Are these metered spots?
No, I mean, like even, let's say, you know, there are parts of, you know, not, well, let's say even like the fruit vendor.
Right.
I mean, we obviously incur the additional, slightly maybe, but slight additional cost for public safety, for cleaning, for, I mean, and all these factors have to be considered, and it's just as Steve says, it's $10 a day, I don't know if it's, but, I mean, not my baby.
And also, if they take a parking spot, we're losing the revenue for that particular spot. So we should try to make that
Wait,
better.
this question.
If you wanted to, if you deliberately wanted to kill this idea of having mobile food trucks visit Roosevelt Island on a regular basis, you could not have come up with a better plan than what you've done here, particularly with the requirement of a 30-day permitting process for mobile food trucks. The whole idea and attraction of mobile food trucks is the serendipity of which truck is going to arrive at a particular time. You may have a truck come you may have 5 different trucks come on 5 different days during a week. So it's not worthwhile for them to make an upfront payment on a monthly basis. If they should be able to come on a daily basis and pay X number of dollars for that particular time that they are here, and also to encourage trucks to come here, at least in the beginning. You may even want to have it free in order to encourage them to come here and see if there is a market for them to exist.
Rick, with all due respect, and I'm not an expert in the mobile food business, but I think to be successful, You gotta get a spot, and you gotta be there every day, because people know you're there and they
Good
look
and
for
bad.
you.
You better
You
believe
can't just go here one day and then there one day, and people don't know if you're gonna be here Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. It's very difficult to run a business
In
like that.
Battery Park City now, where they just have started bringing in food trucks near the World
Battery Park
Financial
City has
Center.
like 4 million people visit there a day.
The-
We have 40.
It doesn't matter.
Let's face it.
They have a rotating group of 20 or 30 food trucks, which will come over a period of time, but no more than 3 or 4 at any one time. So
I think.
it may be at least to try.
We're all on the same page here, right? We all know, we all understand that there's so many people on this island. You don't own a business, so I don't think you understand. I see people come every day, and I see the same type of people come every day. And I see new people. It's a gift, I don't know.
But
I
like,
can recognize faces.
but like anything else,
That's not
we'll
gonna
try
happen.
it out. If it doesn't work out, we'll tweak it. Just like with anything, we don't know, we don't have a crystal ball. You know, this is something that's new.
There is no, just to
Okay,
get the facts straight, there is no 30-day requirement.
Right.
People, I mean, it's not a requirement, it's just when we sign a license, it's done in an increment. It only makes sense not to sign one every other day. So that's why if they wanna come twice a week, that's their business. We'll prorate or however many times they come on the island, however times they're allowed to come, we can certainly work that out and prorate it, that's not the issue. And I don't know if the major, I'm sorry, I don't know if the major factor of people not coming on the island was the $340 fee that they have to pay. It might have to do more with the market forces, but if it ever becomes an issue that somebody wants to come on and they can't pay $340, and if they wanna have like a test run like you suggested, I'm sure we would accommodate them for the benefit of everybody around, but at $340 at the end of the day, I don't know if it's such a big egregious number that it would turn away people.
Mark, I'm Mark Lyon. Would the corporation be open to granting a license, a Roosevelt Island license, to one holder who would then allow other food trucks to operate under their license? Perhaps that might give us an opportunity to have somebody here that would be willing to put up money to bring in a truck, invite trucks that he would like to have come in to test out the island and see if that would be something of interest. But the whole discussion here sort of presupposes that the corporation has the authority to require a special permit over and above the licensing restrictions that are imposed by the city of New York to operate on the public streets. I'm again a little bit concerned. I don't actually think, after I've reviewed quite a bit of the laws under which the corporation operates, that the corporation has that authority, or that they could delegate it away for the area that was leased or related. While it may not be desirable for a food truck to operate there, based on the location, I think that the law of the city of New York actually controls in the instance. We brought up the amount of the fee, and that there was a need to defray expenses. That could be completely avoided if we avoid the licensing scheme altogether, and instead allow the trucks to operate under the laws of the city of New York, and that any truck that was in violation that came onto the island that operated illegally or operated in a place in which it was not permitted under the rules would instead be cited and given heavy fines by public safety. I think that that's just as good a deterrent. I work near Bryant Park. We have a rotation of food trucks that come in. There are a couple of spaces from which they can operate. We don't have a regular truck that comes. Luke's Lobster comes frequently, maybe once or twice a month. The Waffles truck comes by every so often. And it's not something that you expect them to be there every day. It's something where you watch for them.
That's a destination though. Let's
It
face
is a
Bryant
destination
Park has a
location.
lot going on.
And
It's not the same as,
It's a good point.
I definitely understand. There's a difference between the locations. I think that this island can also be a destination and a wonderful location for food trucks at the end of the day after they finished operating, in Midtown, somewhere else. This can be their last stop. These trucks are required to be stored at some very expensive facilities where they have to maintain the vehicles and maintain the kitchens within them under health department rules. And several of those are actually just across the bridge, so they're not very far away. So this is a very convenient location for the trucks to come to finish out their day. Operations near the tram and the subway are key, I think, to attracting customers for these trucks. This is not, well, I'm certain that during sporting events and things like that, we're going to attract people who will come to the sporting fields and to the park and It'll be nice when the monuments are open and everybody can go down that way and see. But the main core that I would envision for this type of business is gonna be the people who come home at night, on their way home, and they're gonna arrive either by tram or subway. And having spots located near the subway and near the tram, on the street, within places that are safe to operate from, are key for this to happen, in a spontaneous manner. We don't need a structured permitting process with special application rules and limited numbers and the inability to get them. We need it to be open and available, serve the needs of people.
Matt?
Yeah, I heard something that set something off in my mind, and that was the relative value of the sites. And they're not the same. A site that has heavy foot traffic 7 days a week should not have the same value as a site that's going to be used on weekends and only in the summertime. So I'm wondering if considering a sliding scale might not be more appropriate.
I don't believe in our perspective, if I'm wrong, you did most of the legwork on this. I don't believe the permits are given for a particular site, and I believe in New York City, it's not done that way either. It's market correct, self-selecting, first come, first served basis. Your truck, you get here, you get to the site first, you know, do what you can do.
Well, if the intention is to attract these trucks, especially on summer weekend days, it might be more conducive if there is a fee for just permitting on weekends at sports fields or at Lighthouse Park or South Point Park, which might be more attractive to a potential user than something that would require them to be here 7 days a week to make the nut.
Well, we don't, we're just basically, we're responding to whatever requests we receive. It's not, we don't dictate people, we don't tell people you have to be here 7 days a week or one day a week.
I imagine this is going to be tweaked over time.
If somebody wants to be here 1 day a week, they'll come to us, we'll work out the details, we'll give them a reasonable rate,
What you're saying is something to consider, and as that comes up, as people make requests, as the gentleman, what's your name?
I'm Mark Lyon.
Mark, as Mark mentioned, the other idea people have picked up, having an umbrella entity that sends different trucks out, that's another thing to consider, but that's, a decision to be made by people who make the decision.
I think having one person handling everything would alleviate everybody here and alleviate everything else, and like the master lease. They're gonna be putting in new businesses throughout the Roosevelt Island on Main Street, so they, in turn, protecting their businesses that are coming there, and they don't want any outside vendors come in. So if you pick one spot and you have somebody that's, that'll say, I'll take that and control it.
I think the umbrella suggestion, though, was one suggestion, one way to do things. I don't think we can say that you have an umbrella person who's bringing out different types of carts, and then any individual cart that wants to come in can't come in because you're the umbrella person. It's not similar to that situation.
Okay, the area between the tram and the subway, no one uses those parking spaces Monday to Friday. They are empty 90% of the time. The only time they use is on the weekend. If you put some food trucks in there, like between 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock at night, between the tram and the subway, 3 or 4 food carts, they would do great. They get the people coming home from work and coming on the subway and the tram. It's a nice area, it's wide, it's new, there are parking spots that no one's using. You're not losing anything. And you can get 2 or 3 trucks a day. That's a perfect spot. It doesn't interfere with anything. It's halfway between the tram and the subway. And that's what I think food carts should be in a place like that. Because they're not, I'm not gonna schlep down to Lighthouse Park to get a lobster roll, even though I like lobsters. And this is it, it's right there, it's then and there, it's between the tram and the subway, the major transportation hubs. We're all starving and grumpy by 4 to 8 o'clock, and that's it. After we have a lobster roll, we'll go have a beer with Alphonse.
That's not gonna happen, okay? Because that won't happen, that's not reality, that's not gonna happen.
Okay.
I see people come off that tram and go straight home. You could put 10 carts and have everything half price, people are gonna go home.
Well-
There's people that don't even know there's a pizzeria on the island, and it's their food.
Well, we can try it.
Let's do what we're dealing with, this is what we're dealing with. Like I said, I'd love to eat something else, I would love to have something else, but I have a business, and I wanna protect my business. And it looks like everything's gonna constitute around our area. And I have a lease with, I was saying, related in Hudson, and in our lease, at the businesses, nobody could sell any other products. Like no one can get another pizzeria, no one can sell sushi. So salad bars, this and that. So I'm gonna get in touch with my landlord and say, you know what, you're protecting Main Street. I think we need to talk about Southtown. So you can put it anywhere you want. I said, me personally, they're not gonna do well, because I know.
Okay, you're not an optimist, but I mean, this is someone who,
More
I'm
realist.
in the village, no, I've sat in the visitor center for 4 years and watched everyone come home from work, and I've watched that ice cream truck for 4 years. And no matter how grumpy and tired they are, people stop at that ice cream truck, and if there was a truck to get something else, they would stop.
Okay.
No,
Okay,
residents,
any-
residents.
Any other comments?
Well, my point is, everyone that's such a big proponent of the trucks and say, let's follow New York City's regulation, New York City says you can't be at metered parking. And I asked you guys last time to take a peek if there's ever been precedent where New York City changes parking regulations to accommodate food trucks. And if we are following New York City regulation, and you can say, okay, there's examples in New York City where they said the neighborhood was up in arms and said, we want food trucks, and we change it from a metered parking to a food truck parking, is what I asked someone to find, and I don't know if I've seen that anywhere.
Well, I
So if
can-
we are following New York City's example, then it makes sense that you wouldn't change anything.
The city's not changing anything.
Well,
Okay,
just
one
to
last.
respond to John's point, commercial trucks aren't supposed to be at metered parking either.
Okay.
Roosevelt Island currently took away several metered parking to allow commercial trucks to park in those spaces opposite Starbucks. So there's a precedent for allowing,
For food vending?
for
Okay,
commercial trucks.
let's return to the
That's totally
agenda
different what
here.
he was saying.
Nothing to do with it.
That's the drop off, we have a designated area, when we have suppliers come,
You don't want food, you don't want us to get supplies on the island to work? I don't understand, like, what would you like us to do?
yeah.
Well, no,
Barge
no.
it in, we're gonna bring it back.
Let's move on, okay.
Yes,
Okay, okay, no, well, let's try to reach a little bit of a conclusion here.
What about the area by the promenade? Jonathan had pointed out
Yes.
that trucks can go down there. Why, I feel like we're building the pyramids here. It's just we want a couple of food trucks on the island. Why don't we just let a couple of trucks go, like down, one by the tram or a couple by the tram or whatever, and some down on the road by the promenade there? Where you can drive off, that's not exactly the subway, but it's
It's a
opposite
beautiful
Starbucks
area
down
that's
there.
seen by Manhattan,
Everybody will
the
know it's
tram,
there.
It won't
people
block
coming out
any
of the subway,
parking.
it's ideal. It's ideal. I mean, from a business perspective, food,
You know what I
we've
mean?
both in food our whole
Well, that's
lives.
not a mobile truck down there.
It could be, down there, you can put whatever you want there.
Yeah.
It's separate
You
stand.
could drive down there.
This is-
There's
this
space
is-
for three.
Like a
This is-
food court, you make a
This
food
is the
court.
promenade, which will be a separate
Right,
discussion.
we can get to it easily.
We're not
I'd like to get to it now, like the last time we
That's
went to
what I
get to it,
brought
we got beat up, so, and we got left and we got thrown out, so you wanna get to
You
it?
said we weren't gonna do it today?
Yeah.
Where they've had
Yeah.
concerts and stuff like that.
No.
You can drive right down onto
Yeah,
that.
there's a ramp, there's two ramps.
Why not put some of the trucks there? It won't block any
Okay.
parking, it's not a big deal.
I'd like to address that, does anybody?
Okay, well, wait.
I saw it on TV, it's fantastic.
Well, let's first try to get it to a conclusion here on these vending licenses. I'm in favor of giving it a try as outlined by Arthur here, and seeing how it works. I'm convinced that we have the right to regulate these things, that we have the right to regulate parking amongst other things here on the island specifically.
Can I add something? It's a question and then something that could lead to something else. Do we evaluate the quality of the food? Because when you walk through the city, if you go into Soho, you're gonna get top of the line cupcakes and things. If you go into different neighborhoods, you could smell the food from blocks away. It doesn't smell very nice. And so my question is, people come here.
It's a great point.
It is.
Because you
I
wanna
know the
smell
city very
souvlaki
well.
all day long, you know?
Right.
And that's why, do we have the right to
Something against
evaluate
crazy.
the people that come to us? Because if they're paying, whatever they're paying, they're looking to make money, and everybody does in the business. But I would say, do we focus on the quality that's being
Well, we're gonna
served?
get
Or
a
is there?
food critic, or I mean.
I'll be the front.
I think.
We gotta give them
Thomas will
grades
sort
from
that
A
out.
to D.
If they have lousy food,
People won't buy it.
We're not gonna buy it, you gotta figure that.
If there's lousy food, people won't be buying it. And if there are complaints from the public, then we'll deal with it.
We verify that they comply with the city.
If there are complaints, nobody will go and they'll leave.
So, should we take a vote of the committee
We gotta give them letter.
to authorize us to go forward?
Yeah, you do like cake, put 7
I
days
make a
up.
motion that we try this out,
Yeah,
the
that
plan
one.
that Arthur has presented, and let's try it out and see how it goes.
I second that.
Without the Southtown spot or with the Southtown? With the, this includes the Southtown.
No, it doesn't, yeah.
I mean, not the Southtown, not that part, this is just for the vendors, the trucks.
Right, but it's the one that, the one
He's going to be looking to see if there are any restrictions on the areas that we were discussing.
If there's additional areas that aren't on the map, if you want us to look into it, let us know, and we'll look at.
if you want us to look into the promenade, we could look into that.
Okay.
So if a vendor comes to you and says they want to park their truck opposite Starbucks, they can come to you and you'll give them a permit to do that? Is that what you're saying, or are you saying no?
Designated space.
I
We're
don't know,
gonna
if there's a
designate
spade that's on the
space.
map,
Come
and
first,
we
right?
find that they're, they should get a permit, we would give them their permit, they would do their business. If that's the map, it's on the map.
Well, I didn't notice it on the,
It's not.
It's not on the map, so as of now,
But how much time are we talking about? Because that's the important, though, the tram and that are the two important spots, either the promenade and the tram, or something else there in the tram, so that the subway people and the tram people.
Well, again, that's another spot that's not on the map, that if people think it's a good idea, as we said, let us know and we'll look at it.
All right, we'll let
I
you
mean,
know,
that's-
when we're gonna look at it, why, and we're putting you on the spot for this, but who's gonna look into it? Is this a Fernando thing?
It's just an operations stuff. But I mean, you let us know, we can pass it on to them.
okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
you
so
know,
Who
you
can
come
we
in
do
if you're.
now? Where is Fernando? Is Fernando still here?
He-
He's leaving.
Oh, he left already?
He wasn't feeling good.
Okay, so if you would look into that area south of the subway station, and just in that area.
What do we mark?
Yeah,
Like
location.
tomorrow. And
Yeah.
Leslie, you're on the phone still?
Yeah, I'm on
Did
the
you see
phone,
that
and you
Fernando-
can definitely look into it. What, you know,
You wanna mark
as was
those
mentioned
spots?
at the beginning, the sites we found, is by measuring to make sure they were a certain distance from any city requirement, meaning, you know, bus stops, parking, fire hydrants, things of that sort. So we'll look at those other sites as well. Looking, you know, to see, making sure that the city will approve it. And they know all that, so we'll look at the sites.
Okay.
If you will, just mark
Yeah,
the
mark-
areas.
mark
that
any
you-
areas.
Mark it, or you could send an email to him tomorrow, or call tomorrow, or send him out
Can
now.
anybody mark it, or is it just? I don't want, I got crayons, I mean, they look nice.
I look at promenade.
Okay, well, we're going to add an order of business as second, discussing the promenade as
Let's
a
discuss
location for vending sites.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, I know that Alfonso has presented proposed, a sketch of a proposal for that. I'm wondering, do we need to, if we're going to look at the promenade, we would
How
need
many
to.
people saw that sketch? That's a good question. I mean, 1, 2 people, 3 people, 4.
Well, I like the idea.
Tell them louder.
I do, I really love the idea of the promenade.
Well, we'd like to know, if it, first of all, if it isn't feasible to have something.
All right, but this is an issue for the
Problem.
next time.
For the next time, right.
We're not
gonna solve it
It won't be
tonight.
that, it won't be that far, I mean, no.
I mean, just in a nutshell, like what is
Why
it?
do we have to,
Well, not now. I just want to mention that we're going to look into this.
Yeah, well,
And-
that's already there.
in that
That's
case,
not
we should,
designated.
why do we have to wait? If we
Yeah.
have
That's a
to
question.
wait,
We
then
don't-
We don't
hear.
have conclusions.
Then we should hear what he has to say then.
My partner Jonathan pretty much has it all down pat, and I guess he could explain it to you within minutes. And then you could go back and
Discuss
deal with,
it. I
discuss
think
it
we should
later,
hear what
but at least
they
have
say.
some information, especially if you have no knowledge about it. Is that a possibility? I mean, what's it gonna take, 3 or 4 minutes? I'll go get coffee.
Right, I mean, well, now the issue is that this is a public meeting, and we give
Yeah,
those
it's
public meetings in compliance with open meetings laws, and the reason we gave an agenda, and then we have the agenda items, we have public meetings, so guys like you who don't care
I assume
about.
this was on the
guys
agenda
like
from
you
last time,
Who don't care
correct?
about other real estate issues can come in and discuss it, it's makes it open to it, we do it now, and that wasn't on the agenda, it's unfair to the rest of the public, so we're gonna not discuss this now unless Howard disagrees, we'll have it on the agenda for the next meeting, and we'll discuss it.
I'd like to have well, could you just have a vote on it, like a pieces? I mean, to me, it's like kinda, you're saying this, but if Howard says, Howard, would you like to
Well,
hear
it's
it?
not Howard's the chair of the committee.
Right, I'm saying,
Right,
Howard,
so-
would you like to hear it? It'll
Okay,
take
we-
4 or
we-
5 minutes.
Okay, we,
Stop the recorder.
uh,
It's off the record. It's off the record.
while you're here, and I'll look to the other members of the committee, I have no objection to hearing a brief presentation from you, but we're not going to make a decision today.
Okay.
And we're going to have a separate meeting, this is just a point of information. And then we will have a separate meeting where staff will have background developed, and we'll have some ideas about what might be required in terms of whether we need to issue an RFP for this space. So just give us some information, refresh our memories, whatever, but brief.
Well, before we did we conclude on the other issue yet?
Oh, yes, we did.
Fair enough.
Real quick, I did hand out a packet to a couple of board members, just a real quick overview of what, well, more than a quick overview, actually, have some sketches and what I think could work down there. It would just include using the promenade for a, you know, European-style cafe with, tables outside that overlooks, overlooks the river. You know, a bar service, whether it's beer and wine or a full bar, and this is something that, we have to look at, because I don't know if you guys done something like that before. And includes adding some new cuisines to the island, whether it's small cart foods or the whole actual trucks, but putting them down there on one side, making the other side the beer pier or alcoholic side, and then roping the whole place off, and we would take control of the whole space. You know, the upkeep of it, it looks like crap right now. It's an eyesore. There's seagull poop everywhere. You know, we really would like. We think it's a destination place. I made an investment in Roosevelt. I think that this place could be an amazing destination place, and this could be part of it. Absolutely. And you know, we've gone out there in all different hours during the day, and the view is spectacular. And I think it appeals to people from breakfast all the way through for cocktails at night.
Concerts, music, different venues.
Okay, it's a very exciting idea. I'm going to schedule another real estate committee meeting in early March, so we can get this going. Okay, thank you very much. And I'd like to move on to our second agenda item, a review of the RIOC controlled community spaces. Now, last meeting,
Thank you, everybody.
the Muslim